old man got the tractor beam out of commission, or this is going to be a real short trip. Okay, hit it!
I don't know what happened there. I really don't know why that happened twice. But, oh well, I didn't click it, so.
That went through okay.
Something is not right. Jason, are you guys? It's coming through okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, it didn't come through twice?
Nope.
No.
Holy shit. I'm repeating. Jason?
Yeah.
Jason, I'm dropping out. You got to talk for a minute. Mine's not right.
Yeah, good.
All right.
Just reset. All right, so we are live. Ethan, you can hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you just fine.
Fantastic. All right, so we got people joining us, a couple people trickling in. So for those of you joining us tonight, it's going to have a quick little discussion and a little bit of a product update on a Merlin Models project. As you guys know, they've released a few models so far. So far, we've got you guys worked on the Jedi Training Remote, the Shuttle Tidarian. I don't know if there's is there like an official name for that one?
Shuttle Tidarium? Yeah. I can't remember the acronym off the top of my head. I always call it Shuttle Tidarium or Imperial Shuttle.
Imperial Shuttle.
What exactly it's called.
So with that, we are now moving into one of the first of many concept models, and this particular concept model is going to be the 124th Ralph McQuarrie X-Wing. So it's the concept X-Wing, and a lot of people might be familiar with this particular one due to the McQuarrie images. There's one, I believe, the TIE Fighter and sort of the trenches, the Death Star trench. Coming after it. And I think there's actually one in reverse, which we might see some of those sample images tonight and discuss how like you took that artwork and pulled a lot of the details and intricacies from the drawings and put it into the model. But yeah, it's going to be a fun one, an exciting one, and really interested in this particular piece, as you know, being a fan of concept stuff. And I think there's been a lot of positive feedback as well. And a lot of people also have a strong interest in this. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. And Chris, just checking in. You saw?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I wanted to also mention, we've actually gotten a few people joining the group because of the interest in this that weren't there before, especially in, last 2 days. It's been quite an uptake.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's been a good thing.
So where did where did you? I mean, were you interested in concept artwork, concept pieces before, or was it something you always were thinking about, or like just kind of?
Yeah, I think like the very first Star Wars image I ever saw was the Ralph McQuarrie Darth Vader with Luke. I can't remember. I don't know what it's called specifically. But it was a concept piece that we actually saw at a garage sale when I was a kid, and I thought that.
Oh, was really? One of the vintage posters?
Yeah, it was one of the vintage posters. Yeah, and we got that, and that was before I even really knew anything about Star Wars. So it started with concept art, and I always thought that was really neat. But I've seen a lot of different concept statues. Obviously, Sideshow did a couple of pieces, and there's some more things out there that were really interesting, but I've always found the behind the scenes of film and of story making really, really interesting. And the development that went into these movies, the artwork there's so much of it that, most people have never even seen before. It's incredibly fascinating. And if you're a lover of the form language of the vehicles, if that's your big thing, which it is for me, then the concept art is just really, really cool. And you can see so many different inspirations when you go through those sketchbooks. It's pretty crazy.
What else is cool is that for each individual ship, there's many different versions of it as well. Some of them are very, very different. Some of them are very similar, just degrees of, close to the actual screen use piece. But I find that fascinating too, that there's so many different, like there's an AT-AT with tracks, it's just a lot of different cool visions that people had.
It itches my completionist brain tremendously. Going through the Joe Johnson sketchbooks especially, and you can see there's like 7 different snow speeders and they're all awesome. Like 5 different AT-ATs, they're all awesome in some form or fashion. And you're like, got to make them all, because you got to have the one that was on the screen and then all of the concept pieces right next to it.
Oh yeah,
like that is the set. You got to have the set. But
that's a great one, and I know we can talk a little bit more about it as we move forward. But Merlin Models is actually going in that direction with tackling some of these sort of concept visions that we've seen in some of the books and some of the sketches as you move forward, correct?
Yes, I think that's the direction that we want to head for production pieces. Now, there are some pieces that we must do just as my personal favorites, and we just want to be able to take them up to that, very highest possible level of quality, instead of just going and buying a kit myself or whatever. So I know, we're going to do an original regular snow speeder because I want it. We're going to do both of the ATSTs with metal armatures, so they're actual animation ready, etc. Because I want it.
That'll be a lot of fun.
So we're working on, collecting those kits and everything like that to be able to build those. But the development process for those kits is not only expensive, but it's very time consuming. So those will continue to be passion projects until they get to the finished part. And then we'll talk about those. But in the meantime, what we find really fun is getting into all the books and the sketchbooks and finding really cool, unique things and saying, okay, well, this is how it was sketched. Now let's see if we can find, some delicate pieces and stuff to fill in some gaps and, look at, how they inferenced the panel lines and let's go put them in there and, all that kind of stuff. So
I do that all the time.
Yeah,
I do that all the time.
So moving into the concept pieces is going to be, I think, really, really fun for us.
I think it's.
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's one of those things where you have a set of fans that are already very familiar with it and are really into it and looking forward to it. But then I think it opens a whole new world for fans who are, diehard. They love Star Wars, but they may not be necessarily really familiar with a lot of the concept stuff. And it's one of those things where you don't want to assume that everybody is just because they're a diehard fan. So once it sort of opens that door for some of the fans who are not familiar or completely familiar with all the different variations and concept works between Ralph and Joe Johnson, I think it's just going to bring that many more people on board out of like curiosity and just out of intrigue. As you said, that sort of that similar feel and direction of Star Wars, but a little bit of a different taste of it. So I think it's a great way to let the palette in both areas of, current collectors and then new collectors coming in that have already been fans of Star Wars to begin with. So yeah.
Plus that's a whole new market. Other than custom makers, some of the guys who scratch build them, there's no market for concept ships. Regal Robot's doing concept maquettes and stuff like that, but there's really no market out there for concept ships.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to get in there. And we need, people like yourselves and the people on our page and on the Rogue 16 page to be vocal about what things you like and also what size, because we know that to get the best, it costs money, right? The production on this is tremendously high just to be able to produce it. Just doing the wax master to start making molds is many thousands of dollars, but we want to do that so that the model is perfect. We're not going to go to the route of 3D printing and sanding our own, sending it to a garage caster, casting it ourselves out of cheap material. But when we move into these more concept pieces, obviously this is 1/24 because it goes with the 1/24 X-Wings that already exist. It fits in a niche. But when we start moving into other stuff, we want to know from you guys, what is the price point that you guys find really comfortable so we can make stuff to scale with that. You know, we can make, you know, the 1/48 type stuff, or, you know, any variety of sizes to meet a certain budget. You know, I like staying underneath $1,000. That
So
makes a
do
lot
we.
of sense to me. And it would, yeah, and it would be nice to get well below that. I mean, I don't know if we could get below 500 on anything, but if we could get to 7, that would make me really happy.
Yeah.
But
Me
on
too.
probably on 1/48 stuff, we could, you know, I would think. So if we did, you know, let's say we did a series on, you know, start with a snow speeder, for example. If we did a series of snow speeders, in Bandai has the 1/48 already for the real one, but, you know, we could offer a bunch of the other versions at 1/48. That's an option because they're small. You know, that can't be that much
Yeah.
production. Now, of course, I would want a 1/24th, potentially.
Me too.
But things that, you know, I think maybe AT-ATs, you know, 1/48 is still pretty big. We could go 1/72nd on one of those tank monsters. It's just a matter of like finding, yeah, like Death Star is saying, find that sweet spot. And I think
But
that
there's
we can nail that.
I was gonna say, not to cut you, Ethan, I apologize, but the difficulty with the sweet spot, and this is kind of going in tandem with what you were discussing, is the variation in sizes. So when you have something like the Imperial Shuttle, that's, you know, 2 feet by 2.5, almost 3 feet.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard to cut that down on price. And another comment that has come up from a handful of people over the last few months, not just, this isn't like limited to Merlin models, but just in general with kits, is sort of the added extras like lighting or base. And people are saying, well, why don't we sort of get rid of all of that, and this way we can have the kit for almost half price? And as somebody who, you know, builds models, you know, whether they be garage kits or you know, kits you buy off a store shelf, those are the things that actually cost the least. So if you pull something like a light up base, or, you know, some other little additives that just give it a little bit more pizzazz, you're really not saving much. Most of the money goes into, like you said, the molding, the tooling, the wax, all that, to get the actual kit, to get the pattern and the kit made. So at best, I mean, someone would be saving, if you forego the base and the lighting and other things like that, you're saving what, maybe $50, $100 tops, if that.
At the most, $100 if we went like super advanced. But most of the time, especially with these, where we're going with the smaller 12 by 12 bases and stuff, yeah, it's less than $100 to get all of that plus the LEDs. I mean, you can imagine if when we buy our LEDs from China and have them shipped over to the factory to get packed, those are costing.
Yeah, that's the least of the
you know,
costs,
wire and electronics and stuff. I mean, there's development. Don't get me wrong. Like, it took us at least a month going back and forth with this guy, messing with the Arduino for programming, not only just the lights, but also trying to get inexpensive motors to work, which does not work. You really need a large scale RC servo, which is not cheap enough to put into production. But there's development, but we don't charge for the development time as far
development,
as so, you know, on our side of things, we think of it like, especially with this one, you know, if you don't want the base, then you just don't need to use it. And same thing with the lighting kit. It'll just make it easier to install, right? You don't have to worry about putting anything like that in there, but it's not really costing you much more money. You know, expect that it's costing you $50, but it's saving us money, which we would then have to charge more if we had to have all of these other SKUs. Like, we created a nest of logistics with the AT-AT and the runner and the shuttle, where now there's so much to keep track of, and we're like,
and then there's more, and then potential delays, and and I just thought it'd be good to mention, because like I said, there's been a handful where the, you know, the conscious, you know, aspect of it is like, oh, well, it looks great, but do I need and want all that? Why don't I take that away and save $300? And both Chris and I can contest to this, and I don't want to come across as a shill by any means, but it's a genuine thing where it's like, well, that's really not where the cost is, and if you pull that stuff out, it's a nice addition, because if you pull that stuff out, there's really not much of a savings. But yeah, the sweet spot, I think, would be around $600 to $800. However, there's also a difference between, and I think not just the three of us, but anybody watching who's made a kit of any kind, a kit that's been, you know, pulled, recast, you know, whatever lineage it may be, second, third, fourth gen pull, you know, you're still paying $300-$400 for those, and those are a nightmare. We're talking hours and hours of cleanup, additional tools, additional resources. Just
Jason, there are more than that.
hero.
$500 to $600 just for the kit.
Just for the kit, and then you're talking. Yeah, then you're talking about all this additional tools and resources you need to just prep it.
Hours.
In order to even get it to the building point to start building it. So we're, a few $100s more to be able to get something, take it out of the box, make sure all the pieces are there. And we've mentioned this a couple times while we've talked with you before, Ethan. Chris, that's been the biggest bane, right? Is just
getting a kit with half the parts or
you're
missing parts.
That one pivotal piece that like holds this up or is a a standout piece here or there. So I think as far as the pricing goes, although it is always a sort of bone of contention when it comes to conversations with these kits, no matter who's making them, it's always important to note the why. And not everybody may be aware, and that's one of the things we're going to get into in a few moments is sort of what this consists of. But I just wanted to address a few of those things that questions and things feedback that have come up over time.
I'm just going to start cycling through some concept artwork first that we have, and then we'll get to actual, talking about the model itself. So we'll start with where this began. So like this, this is early sketch of the Y-wing, the X-wing, Joe Johnston, right?
Yeah, this is Joe Johnston's piece, but you can see that telltale tail sticking out of the back, which is really a really unique piece. His was much more curvy, I think, than Ralph's. Ralph's is still very smooth and sleek, unlike the screen-used X-wing, which is has much more angular pieces to it. Yes, as you can see, just with the cockpit, the shape of the engines, they're all very kind of bulbous or wider than a circle. So it was just a nice little piece. So we did look at the Joe Johnston pieces just to say, what we could get some inference from. But honestly, I feel like they both worked pretty closely together because the details of the Joe Johnston pieces are very similar to the paintings of Ralph's.
Yeah, I think a lot of the line work and panel work, the back end. Yeah, I think it's very close stylistically.
My favorite about it is the circular back end. Like I like that a lot. That.
Yeah, I mean it's basically kind of like an oblong circle.
Yep.
It's not perfectly symmetrical, but yeah.
Oh, you got the whole gamer setup over here.
Okay, so this is the image that a lot of people might be familiar with here.
So,
and what's interesting is the colors on most of those drawings are wrong, because we have the book, that big hardback set, and for the longest time when we were doing research, we saw the original kit that Frank did and found some really cool references of that kit, and we took some inspiration from that for a couple of the Greeblies and things like that. But then when we were really studying this and we pulled the book out, because I was like, okay, so this is reefer yellow, this is not reefer orange, so is everybody wrong? And then we, once you pull out the actual artwork, it is orange. So even though it looks like it's yellow, the actual concept art is supposed to be orange. Everything is actually a little bit darker. There's a little bit more contrast in the real artwork versus what you mostly find online.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Okay. What I find is
mostly clean,
Yeah. I like these little stickers they have here and little details that are on the side, like here. Do you have any, you're not putting stickers with these, right?
I would love to do some decal stuff just to help out, but I think we need to make sure that we get the number of kits that we need to be able to afford to add some extras. But yeah, some of the extras that I'm thinking of are going to be some decals, and then I want to also look inside the way that the cockpit is designed. We're going to have it cast in clear, and then you would do your paint/mask, which works just fine, especially when you're looking at it from a distance. But when you get up close, especially going through you've got to do a white layer of paint first so that the LEDs reflect. Then you've got to put your black layer down to block the light. Then you put your actual gray layer of the cockpit. So that's 3 layers if you didn't have to pull your masking off. It can get a little sketchy. So I want to look at some ways to use technology to help us make that really easy, whether that's going to be creating a cockpit mask that you can then use to help guide the paint or the blocking of the light, some stuff like that, so that we can make the lighting of the cockpit much simpler than the old school method that still works but isn't perfectly accurate.
Or somebody who doesn't have a lot of skill set and make it a little bit easier for them to tackle the task. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are going to look into that over the course of the next few months.
So
Here's that
this
reverse
image, right? Yeah, this image seems to be pretty important, at least to me. What I like about this image, Ethan, is I actually own one of the older kits that were produced. I'd say in the last 10 years, I give or take. I don't know the exact year in which it was produced. I think it might have originally been done by Richard Long. And a lot of the detail on the underside isn't there. And it's just some basic line work. And it's not a bad model by any means. But again, working with just some art and things to work off of, I've noticed by looking at the kit, there was just minimal detail. But looking at some of the images that I've gone through of the prototype that you guys worked on, it looks like you really went and added in a lot of this panel line and detail work, and also this little underside, the curvatures here. I don't know, not sure what we'd call them. Yeah, what Chris is going over now with the mouse.
Yeah. I mean, we call them intakes, but I mean, the engines are on the wings, so I'm not exactly sure what it would be. Maybe it is going to the power plant of the fuselage, but yeah, we made sure that we definitely added those. That was super important for us. And then we also used some model kit parts, some greelies that we had made to fill in between, where you can see those dark spaces. So we filled in between those two intakes with some model kit pieces for some extra detail.
Nice.
And there's model kit pieces on the back, on the top.
Jason, those two intakes are not on the original model kit.
They're not. No. From what I remember, I haven't looked at it in a little bit, but it's not. And also the bottom is just like I said. It's just got basic panel lining, and again, it's a great looking piece, and it gives you the gist of it. But for the most part, it doesn't have all the additional attention to detail, and it really wasn't meant to. I think it was just something that was a fun project. I don't think a lot of them were cast or put out there into the wild. I don't think it was like a large run of hundreds of them, but this gives the first time where, and that also is a little bit smaller. It's not true 1/24th. So that's another thing where this particular X-Wing, this concept X-Wing, is going to be true 1/24th scale to size. And you're going to get all these added extra details, which I think is going to be a lot more fun when it comes to painting, and people who want to give it like a weathered look, people want to give it the clean look, how far in you really want to go with it. Because there's a lot more creative liberty here.
Yeah.
On building this particular model.
I told you before, Jason, when I was doing my X-Wings, I just got done doing two of them. I'm tired of doing X-Wings, but this I'm really looking forward to do. Like, it's totally different than anything else. So,
going with the race car vibe from the helmet, but then that detail behind the cockpit is just so cool. And unless you take the lid off, you're never going to see it, but you're going to get to paint it because we made sure that we modeled all of that stuff. It's all in there.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Nice.
So on yours, if you take the cockpit off, you'll be able to see will it come past? You'll only be able to take this like blast shield off, right? You won't be able to see this back here, or you're talking about this part. Hold on, I'll bring you up.
Yeah. Look at this.
Okay, yeah.
Oh.
The whole cockpit comes up, and then inside here, ours is pressed down a little bit, but you'll be able to lift off the seat. This whole thing just comes up, and then right behind that is going to be the tightening nut for holding these open or closed.
Wow.
Okay.
And then you take your Arduino and your wires and just push them forward into the front of the cockpit.
One thing I always liked, I love the way the pilot looks in all of Joe's drawings, right? There's a couple of really nice ones that have come up over the years in the Propster auctions, and it's such a great looking helmet and whatnot. And I think you nailed it perfectly, or as close as you possibly could to the images and the artwork. And even the paint scheme that you gave it, like even on the prototype, I think the pilot looks fantastic.
Thanks.
That was a piece. Yeah, I saw that, and it just kind of tickled me in a way where I was like, wow, like one of those kind of like you crack a smile, and you're just like, oh, awesome, It was one of those things where I looked at it and I just kind of give myself like a little wow. I really like that little attention to detail. Because a lot of times when there's something you can't see, it gets kind of, we can make it minimal just to get it in there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we scoured the books looking for pilots, and there just isn't a lot of straight up. Well, there are no straight up pilot sketches. So we had to go through the paintings, and I don't think I put it in here, but there's a painting with some other vehicles. I think it might have been the Y-wings, and it was just this like kind of semi-dark shot, and you could see the pilot and like a nice silhouette of what was on him. So we gave that to our sculptor, and he did a fantastic job in interpreting that one good clear shot of the pilot, and then of course, doing a good detailed job on the helmet.
That's beautiful, man. That's gonna look awesome.
Yeah.
So the R2 unit.
Yeah, another little fun one was we didn't want to just stick any old R2 unit in there or find something, so we pulled off more drawings and we designed R2 based upon the same era of sketches. So it's not like any other droid unit that's been in models before. It's got its own look based upon these sketches.
Are you gonna have this little dish up here? I mean, that's such a little piece.
Yeah, we took the dish part off, but we kept everything else. So it's got a little crown, little blue crown. You can kind of barely see it, but the dish would have been like
impossible.
1 millimeter.
But having the crown almost implies the dish because it's raised, right? Like if you put your thumb over it, that's actually raised, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's got we put all the detail into there's some interesting detail on the back. Yeah, we've got that nice long grill section on the back. The head is extremely unique with all of that extra patterning.
Ethan, I'm just gonna have you hold the droid up to the camera real quick, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Just to give it. I know it's tough not to bang the model.
You know what?
Yeah, so you can see even the layout on the dome has got that concept feel to it. Oh, it turns too.
Oh yeah, this is
so you guys
removable.
So you guys really thought this through and through in all detail, huh?
And then on the back, there's the grill. It's hard to see the detail in the grill, but the two little grills are there.
So I'm going to show a picture of the. Oops, you did that, Jason. Okay.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, you can see the concept.
Yeah, I love the way that pilot looks. I really love the way the pilot looks.
I like the way the R2 looks actually a lot too.
Yeah, the R2 looks great as well. I didn't mean to. I don't know. I'm really taken by the helmet on the pilot. I just always love the design of that.
Yeah, and I think in one full 1/24th, you've got a good size to get that detail to come out in castings, which is awesome. We're going to take the joystick hand, which is the one in the center, that'll come off with a little peg for casting purposes, but I think everything else should be castable as a piece, as one unit, which makes it nice and easy to install. And then Justin did a fantastic job on R2.
Why is his arm up like this? That's what I'm wondering. Like
throttle. We've got a HOTAS.
Like dynamic.
Oh, okay.
So he'll fit onto the HOTAS, and then there's a joystick that you put in his other hand and kind of plug into the front of the cockpit.
So he's ready to punch it, Chris. Sound effects and all. Whoosh.
Wow, I'm really impressed. I didn't really take notice to the R2 much until we talked about it now, and I really like that a lot. Very nice.
It's all about the details, and even we can get lost sometimes in some of the bigger shapes, but that's what being able to get to, I would say, like that luxury standard. It's all about trying to pull the absolute most out of it that you can.
Well, I also think, Ethan, I think when you have somebody like yourself who is into models, builds models, but you're also a diehard Star Wars fan, rather than a corporation or company who's producing them just for mass consumption, it's kind of like with Michael from NYC, his slogan, by collectors for collectors. It's kind of what we're seeing here, and I think the obsession to detail is really what drives it apart from most other garage kits. And not to say that the garage kits lack accuracy, because there's some really amazing ones out there, but when you're getting into something unique and different like this, I think that obsessive detail is fantastic, and you wouldn't normally see that unless somebody was a fan themselves. So I think that always adds a little bit more to it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, that's who we are. We are ultimately hobbyists. We just happen to get degrees in CGI, and we wanted to be able to make use of the advanced technology to make it work, and say, okay, let's bring custom models into the 21st century. There's no reason to have to struggle with poor resin castings or where your details are attached to a solid block of plastic and you got to try to carve it off. Like those things just
breaking it apart or.
Oh man, I absolutely. When I first started these two X-Wings, I stalled for a long time because I did not want to do all the cleanup and shaping, and and then I started doing some scratch build ones where I don't have to do that very much, and it's like such a relief, not to have to.
It really does it. It spoils you when you start doing scratch build pieces. It spoils you because everything is clean and ready to assemble.
Yes.
And you get to this point where like you almost don't want to go backward. And not that, there is a little bit as a hobbyist, there is some fun to an extent. You got, so certain people know what I mean by that. Like there's a little bit of fun to the cleanup process to an extent, but it does get a little frustrating and it tends to get tiresome after a while. But when you do the scratch build stuff and things are just ready to assemble, because the biggest thing for most people other than the build is you want to finish the build so you can get to the painting. You want to be able to paint the piece and enjoy it. And the fact that these are basically ready to assemble, that's what I think is the most fantastic of all things.
Thanks. Yeah, and we're hoping to, over the course of this next year, some of the advancements that we're going to be working on is learning how to make instruction manuals. So we'll have really detailed videos, which I like as far as learning how to put stuff together. But as we advance into more professional level stuff, some of the things that we want to get into are going to be doing spiral bound manuals that are full color, laminated, so you can actually put your paint on it and it's not going to destroy the paper.
Nice.
I think those are some extra touches that really help the builder. So I don't know how much we want to do that with these pieces. I know we're going to definitely be doing them with our original work. But if people like that, just let us know that you want paper manuals instead of just video instruction guides. And we're working on developing stuff like that. We definitely will have paper PDFs for wiring.
One thing that bothers me about garage kits is sometimes you don't know if it's like if you have a cast piece. Like I knew when I was going through Slave One, there was a piece that I had to shape down and get ready to glue on, but I didn't know how much of the piece I needed to cut off, how much was flashing, how much was like part resin that was just that wasn't supposed to be there. Like I would have to really look and see what it looks like through reference and through, kit scans, which not a lot of people have privilege to, so
it's not simple to always tell. You're right, Chris. Sometimes people may assume like, oh, you can tell, flash is flash. Well, if you've never seen the piece before, you're looking at a really odd looking piece and the flash is a solid piece of flash. You can't really tell like, okay, if I'm cutting into this, how much do I need to cut? But as far as instructions go, whether it be video and or paper, I gotta say that's one thing that's really never been done before. Always leaving the modeler, up to their own, resources and mindset to figure everything out. And of course, that's a fun part of the puzzle. But if you're working on something complex, directions are always helpful. So I think that'll be a good step.
There's a company that was started by Peter Jackson, who was the director for Lord of the Rings. He was is a huge, just World War I airplane nut. So he created a company a few years ago called Wingnuts Models, specifically doing all the World War I 1/32nd scale aircraft kits. I did not know they existed until late last year. They went under during COVID, and their kits are going for like $300, $500, $800 now for a 1/32nd scale model kit. The tooling is immaculate, but what's even better is the instruction manual. Like I have one somewhere. It's probably with the kit. Otherwise, I'd show you. I'll probably do a post about it at some point. But when you open this thing, it's just like reading a book. Like every single page has what needs to go on the model in full color, and then there's also on the other side is what the actual plane looked like. So photographs of the plane,
Wow.
building it, all the
So
paints.
you have the directions and the reference at the same time. Yeah.
Directions at the same time.
Nice.
It's just insane, like really, really high quality. So I mean, that's what we want to go for when we get to doing paper stuff.
So what do you say we actually look at some actual like renders of it and see what it like close-ups and see?
Yeah. So this is the official one. We might end up changing the post. We're still looking at different posts, but that one is a nice one. It's actually really strong. The base is going to be that mirror gloss black, which we should be able to get samples of over the next couple of months because we're going to be using that on everything now. It's the exact same size as the shuttle, so it'll match perfectly with that. We just decided to throw a little bit of color on the name plaque, make it just a little bit different. And then we're also starting to do 2 12-volt ports on the 12-volt ports on the back, so that you can plug one base into the ground, and then daisy chain for any other ones that you have plugged in.
Oh, so if you have them all, that's interesting. Okay.
Oh wow, yeah, that's
pretty cool.
Especially for those that like to use the smart switches, because I don't like to go in and have to turn everything on individually whenever you're just going to show off the stuff. So you can just use one, phone app smart switch, plug that into the ground, and then just daisy chain as much as you want on the shelf. So
impressive.
The advancement.
That's a great additive right there.
I like that. Never took notice of those before, Jason.
Yeah, you don't see them in the forward-facing image, so that I think that's why they're easily missed. And then you even get the little sort of gun port, almost like you would see on the Cloud car, right there, which is that's pretty cool. So yeah, there's a lot of great panel work and line work on this. Even the intricacies in the engines.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely amazing. So this is Justin's work, my business partner. So he did the modeling for this one while I was working on finishing up the shuttle, and he just, absolutely nailed it as far as just the clean, crisp lines. As much detail as we possibly could pull off of those images. We wanted to make sure was actually like physically engraved on the model. Those gun barrels, aside from the cross piece, from the back end where the fan part is, all the way up to the front is going to be completely aluminum.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
So that's
like this little touch here, the little nubs there.
Yeah,
on the cross piece.
Yeah, just little details.
Can you imagine this, Jason, in a resin cast piece, like right here?
And those little those little panels on the inside. No, I couldn't. I mean, the first few pulls would be nice and crisp and clean, but after that, it'd be a headache.
Yeah.
Even the tip of the nose, you see those two little indentations.
Yep.
Yeah, just great attention to detail on this.
I like the startup light sequence you have going on, and
thanks.
Yeah, I changed my Falcon to do that, and it's really awesome. I like that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That was fun. It's fun to learn more about the Arduino stuff. We still have a lot to learn, but we're getting to the point now where we've got at least the lighting stuff down. I think next step would be to try to manufacture our own boards, but it just depends on how much stuff we do that requires lighting.
Yeah.
So this is actually so something interesting is like 3D printed pieces come as mostly like 1 or 2 or 3 solid
It's almost
pieces.
like a ready to paint.
Yeah, it's almost ready to paint.
Piece.
Whereas these are pieces where it's actually like an actual model that you're putting together. You're doing the work. It becomes more. Some people like just put it together and throw paint on. That's fine. But I like building. Building has grown on me a lot more than it used to. And take all this and just put it all together the way it's supposed to be, and then paint it without having to clean all the crap off, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the signature is that there are no flashing, no nubs, nothing. That's one thing that is worth the extra money to have the factory go in and they clean every single piece of any reference to a mold, which is just awesome.
That's where this in particular, I would say, as I mentioned a couple times, so the 3D printed pieces from some of the other makers are fantastic. They look great. The detail's great. They get a lot in there, and they're able to offer a lot for a lot less. And I get that, but you're getting the kit, and you're basically getting like one giant piece, and you maybe have to add one or two greeblies or add a wing or something. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because it makes it so the person who just wants to get something for a display and display only can get it assembled and put together quickly. But at the same time, if you're not, somebody who's hardcore into modeling, and you don't want to drill things and you don't want to cut things, and I'm not just talking about like flashing and cleanup, but sometimes the models you have to like do drilling and install lighting, and there's all this other stuff that you have to know how to do. The fact that this just gives a little bit of extra work, but it still allows the average person who may not be a hardcore modeler or who may like even be intimidated by it, this I think is that happy medium where it gives the simplicity for somebody who feels a little overwhelmed or intimidated. And it also gives somebody like Chris and myself who want to build the part of the enjoyment and fun of being able to build it to completion. Mm-hmm. So I think it's that nice middle ground of having the easy part of it and then the build part of it without just being like, hey, here's one piece pretty much prepared. All you got to do is like put the droid and the pilot in and paint it. So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of it. And on that same realm, it's also about the durability too. I can't tell you how many times I've accidentally dropped something and it's just completely shattered. Or you get the resin pieces again where you're trying to pull something off and it just snaps in half or something like that. So, the big difference between something like this, which is incredibly fragile and will probably bend and warp over time. These wings will not stay straight when Texas temperatures go up. I bet you anything it's start folding. And that's just what's inherent with all 3D printed pieces. They are just susceptible to temperature change, regardless of where you get them printed. You get them done overseas or get them done on a desktop. These large surfaces are just really, really hard to work with unless you can stiffen them somehow with metal or I've tried filling it with a spray foam. Like for example, this piece here, if it wasn't thick enough, you could fill this with spray foam and get it to be rigid, and that would help to help maintain its shape. But moving into, that's where we started was, let's just 3D print it. We'll find somebody overseas that can do a good job, and then we'll just get them shipped over here, as many as we want, blah blah blah, and you can put them together. But it's just not at the quality level that we wanted. So using the high-end polyurethane, the true plastic, allows you so much more wiggle room. And it also creates a much cleaner cast because the 3D printed parts have to be printed at a much lower resolution. So like anything that's a curved surface is going to have stepping on it. And then they go in and they sandblast those parts to make them smooth so that you can't see the print lines. But that's going to remove a lot of that detail that was there that was nice and sharp and clean.
I was going to say, so hence the softness of them, right? Is that why they have that soft look? Okay.
Why they have that soft look is because they have to be printed at a high resolution or low resolution to get the cost down. Otherwise, they're incredibly expensive regardless of what material you use. And then they get sandblasted clean. And on some surfaces, it looks great. On some surfaces, it doesn't look so great. It really just kind of depends on how much detail you have and, how fine that detail is. That's why we get everything done in wax material so that it's perfect. And it's printed at like 0.02 microns resolution. It's like super, super fine. So that there's no...
wax is actually, for those who don't know, wax is actually what they use when you see any intricate looking jewelry for like rings, bracelets, things like that. And you see all that fine, small, intricate detail. Mm-hmm. That's actually a wax molding. And that does allow for a lot more finer detail, especially if you're getting like, for example, like the droid, right? Even though it's 1/24th scale, it's still a small piece. So it allows you to get those little small intricacies and get them to be sharp and clean and straight, lines and squares and stuff. So yeah, it's a great step in the right direction for sure. And
I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. So the stand, is this threaded or is that just a peg that this will sit on? Or
that is 1/4-20 threaded, so it'll come with an insert. Just gotta glue in. Our goal right now is to find one that has the wireway inside. Yeah. Right now, that one has a wireway on the outside, so you'd have to use just some really thin black wire and attach it to the back, and then it goes in when it's towards the bottom of the base. There's a little groove in the back,
Okay.
But we're looking for one that has the wire weight completely inside. Otherwise,
Got
unfortunately, you'd have two tiny little wires coming out the back and then going into the base, which is a little weird.
So how about there's the cockpit, the pilot and the R2 unit again, and then now we have the painted version.
Yeah, so we try to take as much inspiration from the painting of Ralph McQuarrie as physically possible, but we wanted to add just a little bit more depth and dimension to it. So I added a little bit of over grays on the gray line, just to, again, make it pop a little bit. And then on the white surfaces, we used both a base color of plain white and then Alliance white and Reefer white to get the variation in white panels, so that it wasn't just pure white.
Right.
All the panels have
Like here.
that, just different colors, but they're still white colors. They just have, that AK or that Archive X, base white color on what I would call like a pure white before it gets
So
filtered
like
down.
here and here are two different color whites.
Yeah, those are two different color whites.
Yeah.
And then you can see the one that looks a little bit grayer is the Alliance white, and then the
Is this
one
one?
that's a little bit lower, yeah, that's Alliance white.
Oh wow. Okay. I would have thought that'd be like a grayish color. I'm horrible with picking out the colors. I'm always asking John Simmons, "Hey, what color is this? What color is that?" But I would.
It's got a little bit of panel airbrushing on top of it, so that's why it looks a little bit darker.
Okay.
I might have gone in there with a little bit of either darker gray or concrete and just
Yeah.
masked off one edge, and then you just shade that one edge a little bit, so it makes that
right here.
just one part pop. So
And
that makes it look a little bit darker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Ethan, before we get into some of the details about, like, I know we have a post up on the page right now for anybody interested after the show. We can even add a link to the video once it goes up on the YouTube channel as far as ordering. But before we get into those details specifically, I just wanted to ask, for those that are curious, if somebody chooses to have theirs painted and assembled, let's say they just want it ready to take out of the box and put on their shelf. So I'm assuming they have two choices. They can either go completely clean and all weathered. But in addition to that, if somebody does choose to get something assembled and painted, what are you looking at in addition to production turnaround time? But what are you looking at for like a turnaround time on an assembled painted piece to be shipped?
I assume that when these things come in groups, that it won't take us more than an additional 2 months, maybe. I mean, it depends on how many, right? So we're limiting the number to 30. So if people want to get it, then that'll be an extremely exclusive, limited to only 30 kits that ever get painted by us. And then we'll include a special name plaque, a metal plaque that goes along with that, as well as a custom sticker that'll go on the bottom of the base that has the numbered and all that kind of stuff. So we'll make it all nice and classy and cool for those 30 people. If we sell out of 30, then I think it might take about 2 months for us to paint all 30, because I'm going to be doing it. We are renting studio space so that we can have them all laid out at the same time. And then
so this way you kind of do it. Oh, as you're painting one part or assembling one part, that makes sense. I mean, of course, obviously 2 months is an approximation. That's subject to extend.
We'll find out with the AT-ATs once those come in and we start painting those. We'll be able to let you know exactly how long it took to be able to complete those, because it's really just, we're not going to skimp on detail. So however long it takes to get it done is how long it takes.
Yeah.
But we're going to be looking at using, again, technology to help us, whether that's going to be making our own custom masks for specific detail patterns, or stuff like this where we have to do the 4 orange stripes and the gray stripe on every single one. We might end up using a machine to cut out a mask for that we can use over and over again.
Just like
then
stencil.
We have to tape it with masking tape every single time. Because this model, I would say 50% of it is masking. Like, I've never masked more in my life than
so much panel detail. Yeah,
I'll tell you what. I say, Jason, when I was originally doing an X-Wing, I'm like, I'll bang that out in no time. But then after talking to you, it was like there's so many panels that you have to tape off and paint different colors and tape them again to put mists on. Like, X-Wings are no joke to paint.
Yeah. So we'll have a set, weathered pattern, and then we'll have a set clean pattern. We'll probably end up doing, this is going to be similar to a weathered pattern. I didn't add a tremendous amount of weathering to this. We might go in and do some staining or something like that, but I didn't want to really cover it. But the clean version would have no chipping. It would be basically like a Ralph McQuarrie drawing right out of the box, basically. There would be just your basic, maybe a couple of misting passes on top to lighten some things up, but no.
So that will satisfy the hardcore McQuarrie fans, but people who want the concept and still want that Star Wars feel, they can get a little bit of the chipping and the overspray and things like that.
Yeah. Then we would go whole hog on the realistic.
I didn't realize I had this concept picture all the way back here. But yeah, that's the back of it, huh?
Oh yeah. Some more shots of that piece. So again, not every single tiny little element is physically able to be cast, but I'd say at least 50% of the detail that's on that is on the real model.
Very nice.
And so as we're going through some more additional images on this, because I'm sure people again are curious. Some already know, some don't. But for those that are interested, there's a link in the Rogue 16 group. Now, is that link also available on the website, or how can they, like, if somebody wanted to order
Go to the
while watching this?
it's going to say, for the early bird special, click here, and it's going to take you back to the Rogue 16 group. So you would join the Rogue 16 group if you haven't already joined, and then there are 2 links on my post that will take you to the early bird product page. Otherwise, you could on the website just order at full price, but it would be much better to hop on over to the Rogue 16.
Save a little
Get the
money.
link and save a couple $100, especially on the painted version. Save up to
Plus, you'll really like all of us. You'll like listening to us.
I think it's one of the best places out there for the collectible people. Everybody's really, really nice on y'all's page, which is pleasant because people can be very negative about the things that they love. So,
yeah, that could. Yeah, we try to keep it positive. We try to keep it friendly. And
it's
positive.
a nice place for people that are hardcore collectors, for sure,
Yeah.
and people that like to see hardcore collectors.
Yeah, I think we do a good balance too of sort of scratching the itch across the board where I know we don't do too much hot toy coverage anymore, but models, but then the statues, then there's prop replicas. So it gets a little something for everybody. The hyperdrive is similar. They give a little bit of something for everybody, but where they don't have the additional content outside the group, I think this is a good way to sort of bring attention to projects like this or people who may not know. Because I can't tell you how many times something has come up, Ethan, where maybe someone like yourself has produced something and maybe it's at a point where it's gotten into our hands or it's on display or unboxing it, and you get hey, where did you get that? Where can I buy one of those? Where can I find that? And it's like, oh, well, this is it. Years past already. Like you kind of missed the boat. And I hate giving that answer, but I remember being in those situations where you see something and it's like, oh, where did you get that thing? And how do I get one of those? So I think this is a good way of taking that information or taking a project like this and saying, hey guys, here you go. This is how you order it. This is where you get it. This is how it was made. And this is what you're getting for your money, which is even more important. Really getting all the details behind it as well. So
I really like the different white colors. I'm really loving these. I love them.
Yeah, that was a nice little touch. I was thinking about that myself too, Chris. At first I was like, but I wanted a clean one, but because they're so subtle, especially like the
I think the clean one would definitely include the white, right? So it's not going to be, it wouldn't be perfectly clean. It would just not include the weathering passes, I think.
Yeah.
You'd still get all the white colors. I would still do that for a clean version. All the orange, all the grays. You just wouldn't get chipping.
Or
the
like
dirt,
this here.
the grime, the oil, the rust, that kind of stuff.
Like this spot here, like something like this spot here is considered weathering. So
yeah, that would be weathering.
You would still have the different shades of white, but not like the oversprays and stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because the white really, really ties it in. I mean, it's kind of, it's like one of those tricks that they do in the movies, right? I mean, that's kind of what they do is, they'll highlight panels and it looks kind of weird in certain situations, but then when you look at it in the right light, it's like, bam, there's so much dimensionality.
So one thing I'll point out also is you don't, in the 2 drawings, you don't see the top of these wings, right? So a lot of people take their own liberties and design how they want to paint this. I really like this because it ties in with Red 5. How, you know, it has the 4 stripes, and then the fifth one's gray. I like that a lot.
Thanks. Yeah. I definitely took inspiration from the Chronicles book when I was looking at the different weathering techniques and saying how far we really wanted to go. And I was like, I really like keeping it kind of legit without just doing the new style big stripes or whatever, you know.
Yeah, plus ties in with the front a lot. I like that a lot. I'll probably copy that. Sorry.
Ethan, now the wings on this are functional. They do open and close. Now, is this something that you just do by hand, where if you open them, they sort of like snap into, not snap, but you know what I mean? They kind of just into place.
There's a large solid mechanism full of ABS plastic. So that's the super strong plastic inside that gets mounted to the base. And there's a large bolt that goes through that. And then attached to that are basically ABS pins, and the wings will just slot into the central mechanism. And that basically will trolley them back and forth like this. Then so once you, all you've got to do is just tighten that wing nut to a certain level, and you can probably open and close them a lot before they start to sag. But if you wanted to like really lock
so you can like lock, so you can like open it and lock it in place versus like, but if you wanted to just ever so slightly loosen it where it's holding it, but you can still kind of like how you have now, where if you touch it, they'll close or open. Okay. Because if you want to close it in a closed position,
pop your cockpit out, and then your wing nut's gonna be right behind the seat. So you just pull your seat off, because all this can just sit in there without having to be glued. So you just pull all of it out. Your wing nut will be right there. You can loosen it up if you need to, if you wanted to make a specific adjustment.
Just give the nice closed position. Because the thing about this one with the, sorry, Chris, real quick, with the closed on this is the engines come together a lot nicer. So can you just close it once more for me so people can see?
Yeah, they're not glued
like the design,
but yeah.
Yeah, but the design of it at least sort of aligns in a different way than the regular X-wing that we know. So for anybody, if you want to pose it, static or dynamic, I think that's, again, another great option that's thrown in there. Usually when you do that on a model kit, you kind of have to go a step above and sort of do those adjustments yourself, or you have to get a third-party piece or machine piece and add it in. So the fact that this allows you, both display options is fantastic.
Question for you.
The insides are covered too. You've got 2 little overlapping pieces. If you go back to the rendering of the parts, you'll see them, and they've got a bunch of lines across them. If you look in the Ralph McQuarrie drawing, you'll see that there was no big gap between the wings or on top of the wings when it was closed. It was covered by this grating. So we have this grating that can actually go like this. So it's always solid.
Talk about these here.
I think I am still the only. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Yeah.
These little half circle things. Those are the pins. If you go up to the top of the engines, where the engines are,
here,
right to the right of it, those pieces right there.
These things.
Yeah. So those basically go in before the pins go in, and then they'll.
Oh, nice.
And then they cover the opening. So like in the original X-wing, it was a piece of card that they just glued in that blocked the openings for the wings. And that was all it was a piece of cardboard. This is actually a piece of plastic with detail on it that.
So not only does it hide the operational mechanism, but it also gives the aesthetic appeal of matching the.
Yeah.
Question for you. Any thoughts of like putting in a go back to that picture, like a magnet on the end here to try to, because I know a lot of times with X-wings, you close them, but they still will stay open a little bit.
Yeah. We're hoping that we don't have to run into that issue, because we've got it to where it's really level. Now ours want to open a little bit, but you can see the balance is actually really good without even having a screw on there. So it wants to open a little bit, but that's some of because of 3D printing. Right. I think if you hold the engines closed, right? So there are nubs here. All these little black dots actually are detail pieces. So it's not going to be completely flush. But if you put it flush, and the pieces are actually cast properly, so they're not bent, which is obviously why we're paying for them to get done professionally, then all you've got to do is then screw your wing nut tight, and there should be no flex whatsoever here.
Okay.
We've got a little bit of a gap on parts because it's 3D printed and it's going to sag a little bit.
Okay.
As soon as
it's a little bit of natural give, but
good.
Yeah. But yeah, we're hoping that there should be nothing like this extra little bit of gap here should not exist on the real one because there won't be any bent plastic to deal with. Usually
Very
it's just a matter of, and we also have the wings attached crosswise. So the bottom wing on one side is the same as the top wing on the other. So they provide.
Oh, I see. So you have that perfect. Yeah. So you don't have one like this and one kind of. Oh, so yeah,
they're
really,
not,
all right.
they're not performing a scissor action. They're actually just dollying each other. So the actual weight of the wings is completely balanced.
Wow, so you really thought it through. We get a handful of people still with us. Anybody? I just we could take advantage if anybody watching has any particular questions that we may not have covered or may not have asked. If you guys have any questions, you can ask now. If there's anything, if somebody's watching this after the fact, if you're watching this after it airs and you have any questions, you can post them in the comments, or you can visit Merlin Models. And you guys have details on the page if you want to shoot that out as far as like. If somebody has additional, like in addition to ordering, and somebody just has particular questions about this model or any other model,
anything at all, just, I mean, you can message us on Facebook. That's the easiest, fastest way because it's just the easiest way that's attached. Even you can email us, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can on the email through the website. But the fastest way is just through Facebook messaging. Just shoot us a message and I'll respond to you. I try to make it a point to be very good about providing very fast responses to anybody who has questions about something.
Okay.
I have to say,
and still,
Ethan, I have to say, this is a great one. This is actually one of the ones that I mean, Jason and I were talking for a while before this and saying, you know, how badly we want to get a hold of a McQuarrie X-Wing. You know, it's one of those things that you can't really get. Like, you know, I know there's a few kits out there, but I haven't seen one for sale. I haven't been able to come across one, and I've wanted one for a little while now. So the fact that you're doing these, power to you, brother.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope it works out. We plan on, you know, we'll have about 100 available. So get in on the
still limited, a decent amount, but still limited. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be limited. I mean, we're not professionals here. With original artwork that we're going to be working on for some of this year, we'll be able to offer a lot more. But with the Star Wars stuff, I think it has to remain limited to honor the people that, you know, have the tools and the professional studios and stuff like that. You know, we don't want to ever infringe upon anything like that. So this is still pure custom. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, please let me know.
Hit up Merlin Models. It's available for pre-order now, guys. You can jump on an early bird, save a few dollars. It's actually a decent discount, actually.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
very
decent.
And there's payment plans, which I always take advantage of because
there's payment plans. We did have to adjust the payment plan system just because of the increase in costs for the freaking world right now. So if you're on a payment plan, it costs an extra $70, which is not too bad when you spread it out over 8 months. Mm-hmm. So an extra less than $10. But that helps us dealing with logistics because some of the stuff that we want to look for is how to do quality control and shipping from hubs overseas. So that would save $20,000 in overall
that extra cost of jumping it around and then doing
it back and forth, and then having us pack stuff in here and ship it back. So we might try that with this X-Wing and see if we can get a company to do quality control, and if they've got the hubs to put them in the right places to save on shipping. That's why we just set a standard shipping cost for everybody on this one. Is we're going to attempt to try to liven things up a little bit on the shipping aspect.
I mean, I know that's all hard to say now because there's so many things happening with factory delays, you know, overseas. We're seeing that a lot with a lot of the statues and stuff coming out and with the shipping prices and stuff. But, you know, you guys are really great at keeping people updated on the page and also via video. I know you guys do a lot of videos in Discord to keep people updated. So yeah, if anybody's interested, again, this is available for pre-order now. Details are on the Rogue 16 page as well as Merlin Models. And you can also visit Merlin Models website for additional info and other kits that they have available. So
yeah, the shuttle and the runner are still available, and we'll be releasing a painted video of the shuttle with fully animated lights and sound. That was just something we really wanted to do. Totally gimmicky, but it's fun.
Two things, Ethan. First thing, when do you think this will be shipping? About, not definite.
I'd like to say 10 months.
Okay.
We're getting to the point where if we can get the orders in, we need about 50 orders to start the process. So if we get once we get to 50, then we start production. So, like for example, on the shuttle, we're going to start production in April, getting the master created, the molds made, and the sample sent out. So that's a huge bulk of cost to get it, but that'll get us going. Okay. Once that's done, then the actual manufacturing process is not tremendous. It's just a matter of all of this shipping of things back and forth that takes forever.
And another thing is, like you have the AT-AT that is ready to ship, but it's being held up, right? It's not
opened this week, so okay. I'm expecting them to get on a boat before Friday.
Oh, okay. I gotta make my last payment
here before the replacement bases get here, which is fun.
Okay, I gotta make.
For those curious too, when the AT-ATs do arrive and they start shipping out, I think we're gonna do a little unboxing. Not an unboxing because it's multiple pieces, but just give people a little bit of a look of what to expect as they start to sort of to ship and go. I think it'd be nice for people to have a understanding of like what you're looking at and what to expect from a model kit of this stature and this degree, because you guys really have covered all grounds. And I know we've said that many times before, but it's always great when you have somebody who comes in again who is part of that hobby and has a love for it, delivering those pieces. So yeah, looking forward to this. Pre-order the Panther Fish. Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Andrew was on it last night.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a couple people that were messaging saying like, hey, is this ready? Is this ready? Is this ready? And I said, yep, it should be ready at midnight. And then, starting today. So, I'm taking into consideration the different time zones, but yeah, go get them, guys. I mean, there's only 100. I know some of the other model kits, got scooped up pretty quick. I know there's just a few available, but for, the edition size, I think this is one of those ones that eventually is going to be hard to get, just like the original garage kit that was floating around out there for a little bit. It's McQuarrie one, and that's one of the ones on display that people are always going to want. And once it's gone, it's gone. You don't have any other options on this one, so at least not now or anytime soon.
Sure.
Anything else, Ethan, you want to say before we head on out?
I think that's it. I know. So as far as some other stuff that we're working on, we are working on some original content for some other industries that we're going to be trying to put out at least 1 or 2 pieces this year, because we still just love model making itself. So we're going to be doing some B-17, like very, very high-end luxury montage pieces. We're working on a ball turret with a character in like 1/8 scale with like metal parts and all kinds of stuff. Just trying to we're trying to make a brand on original work that is just like to the nth degree. We're looking at injection molding, metal cutting and casting and photo etch and all kinds of stuff. So we're messing with a lot of technologies right now, which some of them will be seen in some more of our future Star Wars stuff for sure. But if you like World War II stuff, keep an eye out as well, because there'll be some stuff that nobody's ever made before that's coming your way in the summertime.
Very cool.
It's crazy, man. It's amazing though. Loving it. Ethan, thank you again for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us and giving us a little bit more background. It's always much more interesting when somebody has, curiosity and intrigue about a piece that they can purchase, and, getting the additional details, directly from the people making it. So again, thank you for giving us your time this evening. And thank you guys for joining us in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you for building this, Ethan. Very much appreciate it.
Very welcome. It's our pleasure. I mean, we really, really enjoyed putting this one together. Again, Justin did a fantastic job with the model work. So
cool.
Tell him to keep, when it comes to the concept stuff, tell him to keep it coming.
Yeah, he loves it.
Yeah,
he's definitely working on it. I think we want to do a concept AT-AT next. I'm not sure. We'll talk about it, because I want to talk about it with people, with followers, and see what do you guys want, which version. So
Ethan, I don't know if you need to ask us. We want it all, so it doesn't really make whatever. It doesn't matter. We want concept. We'll take it. So we'll take it. But thanks everybody for joining us tonight. I know it's just a quick, short, hour-long. This is something we're very much looking forward to, and thank you, Ethan, for joining us tonight. And can't wait to order this thing. So,
awesome.
Night, everybody.
Definitely. All right. Have a good night.